Welcome to Work World Writing. This is William Faulkner. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, and I love his attitude towards writing. Get it down. Take chances. It may be bad, but it's the only way you can do anything really good. I've copied some quick grammar rules here from it's Owl Purdue's writing lab online. It's commonly used, and they're intimidating. There's so many rules here, to me anyway. It's like, especially when I look at some of the words in there that I have to explain, independent clauses, coordinating conjunctions and phrases and essential elements and relative clauses and coordinate adjectives and non-coordinate adjectives and contrasted coordinate elements and a shift. I don't even know what a shift is. Free modifiers, main discourse. And I love the last rule. Use commas wherever necessary to prevent possible confusion or misreading. How do I teach that? You know, can't a student just say, I put a comma there to prevent confusion? And anyway, I guess sometimes I feel like I have to teach all of these rules and one at a time and explain each one in detail. And then I discovered sentence parts. Sentence parts, they're easy to learn. There's only 4 of them. To me, they replace the need for numerous grammar rules. Not all of them, but they replace many of them. They produce correct writing, which is a good goal. My favorite part is they provide clear and understandable language for the readers and writers to use in order to explain their own writing. You know, why did you do this in your writing? Why did you put this piece of punctuation right here? And these sentence parts gives them that clear language to explain that. And of course, this whole thing will instill confidence in writers, especially in beginning writers. I learned about sentence parts from Steve Piha, ttms.org. You can download more information about them at his website, and it's free, so that's lovely. And so here they are. There's 4 of them. The first one is called the main part, and I color these things, so I just leave this black. And I do that because every sentence usually has a main part in it, and it's going to contain the main action, and it's going to make complete sense on its own. And so lots of the writing that I do is going to be straight up black, simple sentences. The next is the intro part, and it's going to be blue, and it introduces other parts, usually main parts of sentences. And I tell students that it doesn't make sense on its own. If I just read an intro part of a sentence, it's not going to make sense on its own. It needs that black part or the main part to make sense. I've got in-between parts. Sometimes I call them interruption parts because it's interrupting other parts of the sentence. Again, all by themselves, they don't make sense. Finally, I've got add-ons. They provide added information to my main part. They don't make sense on their own. They need that main part to make sense. I've got 4 sentence parts. They're easy to understand, and the language is easy to use. And so I apply it right away. I'll find a video online to start with. Canadian Geographic has these videos of the week. This one's about wolves doing some salmon fishing. And so I'll play the short video for the students to grab attention, but there's always a piece of writing underneath, and that's really what I'm interested in. So after the students have watched the video, we'll start to read and pick apart this writing. So I'll blow it up here for you. It says, got one. In this video of the week, watch as a wolf makes salmon fishing look dead simple. The wolf's fishing behavior, which is rare and largely undocumented, was caught on a remote camera set up in the Great Bear Rainforest on British Columbia's central coast. The environmental group Pacific Wild captured the phenomenon on camera. In an interview with the Globe and Mail earlier this week, Pacific Wild President Ian McAllister said the camera has allowed him to see more wolves fishing than he has observed in 20 years of fieldwork. And so there's lots of stuff I can talk about. I can talk about the first sentence being only 2 words long. I can talk about lots of good word choice in here, like rare and dead simple and that kind of thing, phenomenon. But I use this writing to talk about sentence parts. And right in the second sentence there, I've got this comma, and I say the writer put it in there for a reason. Usually commas are separating parts of sentences. So what part do we have? An intro, an add-on, a main. Where's the main? Where's the interruption? That kind of stuff. And which part makes sense on its own. And eventually, after discussion, sometimes I'll leave the room and come in and just read one part of the sentence and see if it makes sense on its own. So imagine leaving the room, walking in and saying, in this video of the week, right, it doesn't make sense on its own. It needs something else in order to make sense. But if I left the room and walked in and said, watch as a wolf make salmon fishing look dead simple, people can sort of understand. So eventually we'll realize that I probably have an intro here, and they've used a comma to separate that off. And I'll do it for the next sentence that has commas in it. And eventually we'll read parts of the sentence and figure out I probably have an interruption here. I don't actually need to read my interruption at all. I could read the sentence without it. The wolf's fishing behavior was caught on a remote camera set up in the Great Bear Rainforest. And then they have another comma, and eventually we'll figure out that they've added extra information onto the end of the sentence. And we'll do that for all of the sentences in the piece of writing, trying to figure out which parts we have. And it tells us a lot about what kind of, if you step back and take a look, there's more black than any other color. And so writing that's easy to understand is largely black and simple main sentence, main pieces with little bits of color added in here and there. The more color I have in a sentence, the more complex it becomes. And so we can also pick apart the writer. Well, this writer, especially if we have more samples of this author's writing, well, maybe they have lots and lots of blue. They do lots and lots of intros, or maybe they're constantly interrupting themselves. And so you get to learn about the writer. And then I'll get my students to send me an article. And so this is an article a student sent me talking about tweets in Time Magazine. Sent it, it's very current, sent it the same day that I made this video, actually. And so I'll blow up the writing and we'll pick it apart and we'll find which is the add-ons and where's the interruptions and things like that. And it gives them this language to be able to explain what the authors are doing. And then I want them to be able to use it on their own writing. And so I'll challenge them. Try and create pieces of writing on your own and see if you can color it. If you can color it really quickly, it's probably pretty easy to understand. If you have trouble coloring your own writing, then it might be hard for people to understand what you've written. And so this is a piece of my writing, and I'll color it with the students, and I've got this little interruption going on, and I've got an introduction. But mostly it's just black, simple sentences with little bits of color. And that's where I start with sentence parts. And of course there's more to come about all these sentence parts, but it's just a great way to start. Thanks for listening.